Hey everyone, welcome back. The campaign is over, it's time for endgame. Starting with a bit of tier 3 mapping action, you'll love to see it. I'm taking it easy, just doing the bare minimum for Atlas completion. I don't do tons of damage, so I might as well take it easy. I reach level 74, decide to loot an amethyst ring from a merc, sacrifice my own merc in the process, rip homie, and I play ritual of course for a field belt, omen of the jeweler, GCPs, all the good stuff. I upgrade the main skill to 20% quality, which means one more artillery projectile. I unveil hybrid chaos res on that heavy belt, so I equip it, craft double res on boots, and elemental damage with attacks on the belt. I equip the amethyst ring I got. I now need to solve a missing 2% lightning res, and I do that by another boost craft. I craft some flat fire damage on the ring as well. I spend all of my armor scraps, get a new thunder quiver homie, transfer all the gear from the old to the new one, get new boots which I donate to the homie, get an exalted orb, reach level 77, loot a promising veiled body armor from ritual, decide on life and mana, craft flat evasion and donate it again to the homie. I'm pathing towards a mana reservation mastery, and these notes provide increased mana and aura effect. I gamble on a vivid jewel, which starts promising but turns into disaster. I buy some normal flasks and trade 5 of them and a divine orb for 5 divine vessels to get the pantheon powers. I get myself a new helmet, this Sinner Tricorn with good life and res. I get an offering from a trial, get one shot by innocence, find these rather amazing gloves and I get one shot again. I find the hybrid Chaos Res craft, which is gonna come in handy. I find a great ring, I need Chaos Res badly. Here you see the power of taunting totems. A boss like this without it would be very hard. I find new gloves and craft them into shape. I get freeze immunity from coral ruins, upgrade the homie once more. Here's a glimpse of the passive tree, and this is the moment I can cap my spell suppression, which feels pretty good. Still, it doesn't prevent me from one-shots in a tier 5 map. I decide to incorporate arrogance support into the build, making precision and clarity reserve life instead of mana. That allows me to run grace and anger using my own mana. The homie has a flammability curse aura which helps, and here you see a longer clip of just how the build functions, still on a 4-link, and the zoominess and smooth mapping is absolutely there. I just need a bit more defensive layers, but that will come with time. Right now I focus on just leveling up an Atlas progression, and here is level 84. Killing mercenaries can be dangerous, but it's also quite rewarding, with this helmet providing accuracy, intelligence, life and res. Ritual monsters drop a Shaper's Seed, that's a great find, and I can use all of that regeneration. I loot another offering, get a Val Haste, get a Fox Shade from a merc which I donate again to the homie, reach level 86, get a bunch of currency and Fairgrave's Tricorn from a strongbox, get a +1 fire skill amulet from a merc. I can't equip that yet, but it's good to have, as level 22 of my main skill provides an extra totem. I decided to take Wind Dancer. I shouldn't get hit more than once every 4 seconds if I play my cards right. I find 2 divines in the merc's pouch, and after a quick fight they're mine. I replace my life flask, create a very decent jewel, but I miss the slam. I hire another homie, get more currency from mercs, reach level 87, take a jewel socket for that jewel that I made, automate flasks a bit, get new boots, and a quiver for the merc, and this is another source of increased damage taken by enemies. Here you see the new boots, ready and all. This is what resistances look like. I hire a kineticist as they complement my build very well. I reach level 88, pick another socket, craft an abyss jewel and slot it in. I drop a Burkwell's Toe, although the mana and life regen from Shaper's Seed is currently too good to give up. It's time for the first test on what this 4-link artillery ballista can do on Stargirl, and it is not a whole lot. I don't expect single target to be good, by the way, so I suppose this went about as well as I imagined. On the plus side, what was true in the campaign during bosses remains true here, in that I am mostly tanky enough for the content, while my ballistas slowly but surely kill the Black Star and her clones. It does take 3.5 minutes though. I decide I need a 6-link to prevent bosses taking this long, so it's time to spec into ritual. First, the monsters drop a Leer cast for the homie, which is good, then a tier 1 fractured flat fizz on gloves, a double field bow, a 5-link crypt armor, and I craft a quick life and res jewel from a vivid jewel, also from ritual. A little later I have enough favor for that 5-link, I get a 13% quality sniper's mark, I throw some essences at the 5-link, get something decent, slot in the gems, and as a 5th gem I use elemental focus. I get a frenzy charge and grace aura effect from eldritch currency, and after 20% quality it has 1200 evasion and 200 energy shield, which is not bad at all. I decide to apply some more eldritch currency while I'm at it, for example here, 20% reduced cost of attacks. I reach level 89, ritual offers another 5-link, I take the 15% life mastery as my body armor doesn't have a life mod, and with the new gear I feel confident taking on Hunger Boy. I learned from the comments section of last videos that you can shorten his burrowing time by walking over him and then dodging, so I applied that knowledge. It works, but this fight still takes a while, it's nothing new there. But for the reference, he ultimately dies after 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This mercenary has a great bow on offer and it's mine. I put 20% quality on it, benchcraft attack speed when a rare or unique is nearby, make all sockets green and give the old bow to the homie. I find Egan in a tier 14 map, but I'm not eager yet for tier 16.5 maps. I find lost goods, I'm more and more convinced this is a must-have in SSF, and I reach level 90. I remove the accuracy node as I no longer need that, and I get projectile damage and mastery instead. As I'm level 90 now, maybe I should take on the final lab. After killing Izaro, I try my luck on the transfigured gem, but I have no luck. And I take the far shot ascendancy, 30% more damage if targets are far away, measured from the artillery ballista totem. From Izaro's ghost, who of course knew I just finished the 4th lab, I get a little present, the skirmish. I have to sacrifice some life and flat damage, but I feel another totem is worth that sacrifice. This brings my total totems up to 7. I get a Solaris circlet, but it is the wrong one. If you know, you know. I get a Doedre's Damning for the homie, +1 curse, which means her flammability and my sniper's mark can be on a single target. I get a 5-link bow, a 6-link majestic blade I can't use, find a kineticist homie who joins me. I dress her up a bit in the hideout, give her an Eclipse Solaris to blind enemies, a Belly of the Beast for life, and she's going to provide haste aura and elemental weakness curse. Here is a pretty good amulet which I equip. I reach level 91, I find a 5-link from Lost Goods, and another. I throw some random currency at it, get spell suppress and evasion, which is fine. I craft double res, color it, quality it, and I link artillery ballista to fire penetration, elemental focus, added cold, and elemental damage with attacks. I throw some eldritch currency at it, hit the endurance charge, which means 3 endurance charges as I have the charge duration mastery, 200% charge duration, which adds a good amount of tankiness to the build, these endurance charges. I can now remove a bit of spell suppress from the passive tree, path towards more mana reservation, meaning I don't have to link precision anymore to arrogance support, and that means I gain a bit of life. I get good boots from a mercenary, which is more spell suppression and 30% movement speed. Support gems are hitting max level, so it's time to swap them. I get a rune graft of treachery, which I may find a use for. I find an ebony tower shield that is Chernobog's pillar, applying enfeeble on hit, that is for the homie. Not for long however, because a little later I get Victario's charity, a shield that I believe is better. It gives me frenzy and power charges. I also give her a new body armor with a bunch of res, quality for 2400 evasion, and I hope she's happy now. So, you should really all play Ritual in SSF, guys, because it gives 6 links. Here is one, for example, a pure evasion based 6 link. Let's defer and re-roll. Oh wait, what's that? Another 6 link in the same Ritual? Yeah, they're a tad expensive as I have that random cost keystone, which is also amazing. But after some more deferring, it is finally mine. Here is a single defense harvest craft. I mean, why even bother with more, right? So yeah, that's pretty good. Let's benchcraft increased evasion, use quality for almost 2200 evasion, color it with 2 red and 1 blue, fix some resistances using that jewel that I crafted earlier, and after this ring craft I am capped again. I can remove now even more spell suppression from the tree. I get the mana reservation cluster, remove the 15% life on body armor as it's useless now, fill my eldritch implicits as I ran out of currency, so no 3 endurance charges for now. Arrogance support is no longer needed, and here you see the final setup with artillery ballista linked to fire penetration, elemental focus, added cold damage, elemental damage with attacks, and faster attacks. I reach level 92, take poison immunity for no apparent reason, do a tier 12 incursion, also for no apparent reason, give a prism weave to the homie. I have no anoint up until this point, so I get a cheap ironwood one. I find the dark ray vectors from a unique map, I quality, color and link it, and these are amazing because it is another frenzy charge, bringing the total of those up to 8. It is also 40% movement speed. This is kind of an interesting bug. These guys won't attack, but they also won't let me through. I've never seen this before. I fix flask automation once more, play my favorite map and drop a magnate, which is just a cool find, and another double corrupted Dodri's Damning. I really enjoy this map, by the way. I am level 92, I get that 6 links set up, the 4th lab and anointment. Maybe it's time to take on some more bosses, although this really isn't much of a bosser. Starting with the Eater of Worlds. I bring the homie. I decided I'm just not gonna bother about bringing her or not bringing her like in the last video. She's just gonna join me for everything. Damage is pretty okay, I feel. I'm very fast, which is nice as I just keep dropping totems and circling around the boss. This is a lot smoother than I expected. And after 2 minutes and 50 seconds he dies. I follow up immediately with the Searing Exarch, which also goes very well. He is a bit more stationary, so that is a bit more damage. But my totems don't have many issues with moving targets as they attack so quickly. After 0 deaths and 3 minutes he also goes down for the second Voidstone. I'm not gonna bother with 4 Voidstones in this run, by the way. This isn't much of a boss character and I also really don't want to go through all of those efforts. I just want to blast maps. That is my favorite activity anyway, and this character performs well in maps. I reach level 93, decides to take the damage per aura mastery, and I have 5 auras for 40% increased damage. I complete my pantheon. I notice I have the ingredients for a taming, but I can't fit it into the build just yet. I take on Atziri in the incursion temple and I get her flask, which may come in handy. I fix that endurance charge on chest using more eldritch implicits. I use an essence on the 5-link bow for a decent outcome. I quality it, slam it for some dex, which is a shame. Benchcraft attack speed. And that means I can link Culling Strike to the Mana Forged Arrow setup for big quality of life. I run another Star Girl. I get the Eternal Struggle with the right dominance, meaning that is also Culling Strike. Again, I can't incorporate that into the build right now, but it is a decent find. I drop an Ash Collar, which applies Covered in Ash for the homie. I reach level 94, decides to take another endurance charge that makes 4 of them permanently up. I craft some flat fire instead of flat lightning damage on the gloves, get a higher level homie kineticist, which simply is more damage. I craft her some better gear with some eldritch implicits. I fire the old homie, transfer the gear, and it's good these homies don't have invented unionizing yet. I get a casual 3 divine orbs from a merc. I drop a Maloney's mechanism, which would be so fitting for this build, but giving up skirmish isn't going to happen, so instead I use it in the offhand to level a bunch of gems. I make sniper's mark, 20% quality for a bit more increased damage taken by enemies. I almost died here, that was a very close call. I get a Belt of the Deceiver to intimidate nearby enemies for the homie, which is more increased damage taken by them. I reach level 96 while blasting maps. I basically never die anymore. I've had very few deaths in maps from level 90 or so onwards, explaining why I am reaching these high levels in a fairly short time. I like strong boxes too for all the raw currency in SSF. I get corrupted Victarios for the homie, less critical damage taken, that's good. I get a lucky corrupt on the southbound, but I don't equip this yet. I hope to get a level 21 ballista gem, but it doesn't happen. I hire a new and improved homie, also again a kineticist. I don't slaughter in yet, however, for no apparent reason. I really should have, and it's time for the next section. I didn't really want to do this, to be honest, but as it is relatively low effort and a decent benchmark to compare this run to previous runs, I'm doing a bit of memory content, starting with mini series. This is quite smooth, I would say. The follow-up, the Incarnation of Neglect, definitely takes a while. I die a few times to ground ice area of effects that I can't see. But also, if you pay attention here, the homie doesn't seem to do anything. She doesn't curse him with elemental weakness unless she's next to him, but I don't think it happens at all. She doesn't attack, and this just isn't great. I think the results therefore are a bit skewed, but for what it's worth, it takes 4 minutes and 40 seconds, which is slower than the flamethrower trap build. Here my character is more juiced up than the Liver King thanks to a bunch of shrines, but those don't exist during the actual boss fight. Again, the homie is just sheepishly looking at me, while I'm sheepishly looking at my totems and at the homie. And therefore, it does take a while, maybe longer than it should. Still, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, that is on par with the last build. Finally, we have this guy, I think the most interesting boss fight. I'll leave the homie at home just to see if that is the issue before taking on the Incarnation of Dread. Without the homie, this fight takes a little over 5 minutes. It doesn't seem to matter all that much in the end. It is proof, however, that this isn't a boss killer and it's not meant to be, although the character is pretty safe and the boss fights overall are smooth. The Alice turns red, inviting me to blast more maps and do some final touches on this fresh SSF character. I get max quality on Fire Pen support. I do some blighted maps because I want a new anointment. I get all the stacked decks out and do a little prayer, but the loot gods don't really favor me. Using the newly acquired oils, I get Primal Manifestation, that's just a bunch of solid totem stats, High Quality Ensnaring Arrow for the buff effect, finally invite that new homie I got before, swap over the gear, and I think she's better using Kinetic Bolt instead of Kinetic Blast. I quickly spec into Eater because I need a bit of currency from there. I sell a bunch of quality flasks for Glassblower's bubbles so I can quality my own flasks. I finally hit the Eldritch currency that I want, fire exposure on hit, which means I can spec back into the Searing Exarch. I want to craft a better jewel and I get pretty far, but I also get greedy going for a corrupt, destroying the whole thing. To show you guys that I learned from my mistakes, I do the exact same thing a few minutes later, with the exact same result. I get the wrong Solaris Circlet unique again, which hurts, burn the last scouting reports I have in my stash before I wrap this thing up, and I get the Putrid Cloister. I decide to get a Source of Blind on hit and blind effect for even more defenses. I get a corrupted Dark Ray Vectors, and after closer inspection that corruption is 4% life. That's not bad. I benchcraft it so I have the correct colors and links. I get a bit of quality on there and it reminds me I can attempt to double corrupt my old Dark Rays. So I slot in that Alpha temple that I saved up from before, make it to the corruption altar and... never lucky. Maybe Doriani's Institute treats me better with this anger gem, right? No. Not right. No changes. I give that corrupted southbound of before to the homie and there's only one thing left to do. The last thing I want to do is showcase this build in a few tier 16 maps. This is my favorite content to run, so whenever I end up with a character that does this comfortably, I'm very happy. Especially in the context of this video series with me picking a skill that I haven't played before. And this time, for better or worse, I haven't used passive building at all. And I think that is a healthy thing to do from time to time. I did make a PoE export of the character, just for reference, you can see it in the description, but this series for me is really about getting that random skill, picking a ascendancy that makes sense at least at a surface level, so a class with a bow in this case, and then just try to make it work without going into all sorts of build guides, PoE, theory crafting and whatnot. Just play the game and figure it out basically. The goal isn't to create an optimal DPS build, the goal is just to make it work in tier 16s, maybe some bosses, get 2 Voidstones and then, throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. This is the 3rd series now, but I've really come to appreciate making these builds, solving all the challenges and experiencing the progression firsthand. I read your comments, I try to incorporate that into the build, I also learn a lot from that, and all the comments on how traps work have helped me a lot with this build too, as totems share many of those interactions. Although in this particular case, the 3rd series, I'm already writing the script for this second episode before the first episode is even published, so comments this time I will not apply. But normally I will, I don't write it that much in advance. Ultimately, what I ended up with is a very solid mapper. It is zoomy, it's quite tanky, as I haven't died in maps in a very long time. I think it's a few million DPS, and most importantly, it's just fun to play. The whole thing has come together quite nicely. I think the build isn't necessarily strong, but it does make a lot of sense, and I've made some clear choices and stuck with them. The ascendancy, of course, but also going for frenzy charges, getting precise technique and not crit, that sort of thing. Given more time, I think I would make the following upgrades. A better bow for sure. Mine isn't bad, but it isn't great either. And I would try to get a 6-link bow so I can link the ensnaring arrow to life tap so it always procs and has enough mana / life to cast it. You could forfeit this whole ensnaring arrow setup and even get a complete new damage skill in for more damage, but I opted to just take the totems. I would find a way, probably through jewels, to get shock immunity. I am not ailment immune, only freeze immune. I get even better evasion gear with spell suppression, so I can free up more passive nodes on the tree. I would get my artillery ballista to level 22, which shouldn't be hard, I just didn't get to that. Level 22 provides an additional totem. I would possibly get the transfigured version for bossing if you're up for that. I think it would make a big difference. And of course, try to find a Wilma's Requital, which is an enormous damage boost, but a rare drop as well. And despite quite some farming tier 16 maps, it didn't drop. I think this character is very suitable at map blasting, but also at heist because of the speed, and possibly delve if you don't delve too deep. Again, don't go bossing with this unless you make significant changes to the build. I had a blast with this one. I'm proud of the result, it turned out quite well. Last build I wasn't too happy with, but this one is a lot of fun. And I hope you had fun as well watching these episodes, following along on the journey. Maybe providing some advice in the comment section, it is really appreciated. I want to thank you most of all for watching, making it to the end. And with that, love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.